this is a tough one. I've gone back and forth because there are so many factors here, right? Penn State fires a coach, regardless of who it was. Okay, the offensive coordinator here. You fired the head coach of your offense in the middle of the season, and now you're going up against a very good defense, but Penn State has a great elite defense to go along with it. So all these other prediction preview episodes are similar. So I give my score prediction and then I defend it and analyze it to the best ability that I can. And I'm going to go Penn State 24, Rutgers 3. It's right. It's right around that score margin of the spread of the official sports book of Locked On. FanDuel has it at 20.5. The total set at about 40. And this one is a little difficult because you kind of have to gauge where Penn State is mentally. But I will begin with the offense because that's the biggest question mark. The offense isn't going to be able to reinvent itself overnight. Okay. You're going from something that was already struggling with Mike Yurcich, who was a veteran offensive coordinator, a veteran play caller, to now not one, but two inexperienced play callers. Jalen Sider and Ty Haller calling plays for the first time at Penn State in their careers. And these guys were a part of the offensive game plan. They helped coordinate. They were the co-offensive coordinators, but now they're going to be splitting play calling duties. And I have a hard time understanding the chemistry behind this and all of this. You still have to grieve the loss of Mike Yurcich from a player's standpoint. For what it's worth, those guys liked Mike Yurcich. The quarterbacks, maybe you ask everybody differently on the team what their opinion of Coach Yurcich was. However, I mean, this is a big deal to happen in the middle of the season. What's also a big deal is the fact that Penn State's best case scenario is finishing once again 10-2. The ceiling is a New Year's Six bowl game. How many of those players are actually thrilled that this is where they are when they know they could have been a college football playoff contender and they missed the opportunity to do that? It's trying to gauge all of that is very difficult, but we have to. I saw a quote, and maybe this was more about like friendships and family members and relationships, but I think it fits with what Penn State was this year. James Franklin, Mike Yurcich, and everything that happened in the 2023 season to this point. It said, don't try not to basically fantasize what someone or what a team in this case, like Penn State, could be, should be, and just accept them for what they are. Let's do that here. Let's be realistic. Penn State has an elite defense coached by Manny Diaz and an offense that is average at best. And I think that's being generous to this point. They are average, they're mediocre, which is so strange to me. And this is why a change had to be made, because you had the 5-star quarterback, you had the 5-star running back, and a highly touted 4-star running back. You brought in Dante Cephas out of the transfer portal. Keandre Lambert-Smith was a veteran. I know the injury to Trey Wallace doesn't help. Theo Johnson, Tyler Warren, best offensive line in memory. And this is the result that they put on the field. They are not an explosive offense. They, in terms of the analytics, in terms of the metrics that look at the explosive plays, Penn State ranks last. Penn State is not an explosive team. They're very conservative. Part of that is the way that Drew Allar is naturally. He's got a 21 touchdown to 1 interception ratio. No fumbles. Or the 1 fumble, excuse me, against Michigan. So he's committed 2 turnovers to this point. Penn State's good at protecting the football, but they don't do enough with it. They can't drive up and down the field at will. And so if anything's safe in this game, the spread, if we're looking at this from a sports handicapping betting angle, the spread can go one of two ways. Rutgers could score a few more points because I'm right around that 20-point mark with my prediction of 24-3. But Rutgers plays good defense. And Michigan scored 31 against the Scarlet Knights. Ohio State scored 35, but some of those touchdowns came late in the game. Rutgers, for what it's worth, is a feisty team, is a motivated team. They've accomplished more than they expected to this year. And you look at the defensive stats, what they're allowing yards per play in terms of run, in terms of pass. And here's what Penn State struggled against offensively. The story's about the offense here. Rutgers is top 5 in yards allowed per pass attempt. You know who else is in the top 5? Ohio State and Michigan. So Penn State does not do well in these matchups. However, Michigan's offense can sustain drives. Ohio State's offense has a former five-star quarterback and one of the best wide receivers to enter the NFL draft in a long time, in Marvin Harrison Jr. He's an elite prospect. That's the difference here, okay? Rutgers doesn't exactly have that. They have Gavin Wimsatt, who's a veteran quarterback, dual threat, takes better care of the football. Rutgers actually doesn't turn the football over this year. I'm very impressed with what the Scarlet Knights have become for what it is worth. But then it's really the key to beating Rutgers is stopping Kyle Monangai. If you can stop their starting running back and hold him to a low amount of yards per carry, you win this game. And Penn State's defense is elite. They are healthy for the most part. Chop Robinson comes back from injury. Me and Vanover. I wouldn't say exactly everybody is 100%. They have bumps and bruises. But I am so surprised the depth for Penn State has held up to this point. So everyone aside from Trey Wallace, as far as starters and key backups for Penn State, are all available. They're ready to go. They're mostly 100%. There's not a lot of lingering injuries and issues. This should have been a good setup for Penn State, but here they are trying to go 10-2 and win a bowl game this year and win a New Year's Six bowl game this year. The offense isn't going to be reinvented. The offense is what it is. Drew Allar likes to protect the football. He doesn't like to take risks. He doesn't really have any pass catchers to take risks with. Dante Cephas, Keandre Lambert-Smith are decent wide receivers in this case. I'm glad that Keandre Lambert-Smith can be a number one against the likes of West Virginia, against the likes of Northwestern, Maryland. But when it comes to Ohio State and Michigan, who are top 5 pass defenses, not so much. Rutgers, in terms of yards per play, is also a top 5 pass defense for what it is worth. So this game is not about who can outscore one another, who can win the field position battle, and who's ultimately going to have better success of sustaining drives and not turning the football over. Neither team turns the football over. Both defenses are at the very minimum respectable. Penn State's defense is elite. Rutgers defense, I know who they played. I know who they have played, but they've given a lot of other teams fits. They're coming off that shutout game against Iowa. So I really relate this one back to the Iowa game where Penn State won 31-0. This is one that it's going to feel very similar to. It's going to be boring. It is going to be a quick game. But now let's analyze what J1 Sider and Ty Howell are going to do as play callers. Sider's the running backs coach. Howell is the tight ends coach. Where do you think the football's going to? It's not going to the outside. It's not going to the wide receivers very often. It is going to go to Theo Johnson and Tyler Warren, and hopefully more creative ways to go to Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen. With that being said, the clock is going to roll. The ball is going to be there's going to be more rushing attempts. They're going to find creative ways, I hope, to get the running game going, maybe set up some play action and some simple passes, because at the end of the season, I think your objectives really change. It's not about what can we do to really drastically improve Drew Allar's development. You got to get back to basics. What can you do to help his confidence? And James Franklin said it in his press conference after the Michigan game. Mike Yurcich did not call enough plays to get Drew Allar comfortable and build his confidence against Michigan. So what do you think is going to happen against Rutgers? But this has been the theme all season long. Penn State's going to try to grind the opponent down. They're not going to do anything differently. They're not going to have this aerial air raid type of offense, even though Drew Allar has the arm to make the throws deep downfield. Accuracy has been not the best, right? He's missed some receivers. He's missed his pass catchers from time to time. But that's just it. Don't try to overanalyze what Penn State can do, because the offensive problems are still there, even though you've made a change at your offensive coordinator spot. And really, I think not enough people are putting much stock into these are first-time play callers, and Rutgers is a little better this year. So not a lot of points are going to be had. Time is going to just bleed off the clock. It's going to be a low-scoring game. If you're looking at a betting angle, the spread is going to be tougher to judge, but I think this is a low-scoring game, and I would take under 40 points here. Penn State does win. You also have to factor in the motivation here. Some people are saying, well, Penn State's going to be angry, and this is a chance to beat up on little brother, Rutgers, and take all your anger out on them. I don't see that at all. I see Penn State in another similar situation. You lose the big game. and you're not going to be able to adapt. The only thing that I think bails them out here is that Rutgers offense is just not very good. They're very simple. You stop Kyle Monunga, you stop the running game, and Rutgers is zero dimensional. They can't do anything to keep up. Kind of similar, a few when Penn State went 7-6 and Rutgers tried to come in and do the same thing, kind of shorten the game like Illinois did. That's what they're going to do here. Rutgers isn't going to deviate from its game plan. They like to play ball control, protect the football, use good defense, but Penn State does that better. So you're having the same style of football being played by two different schools at two different levels. So Penn State, Rutgers, similar style of football. Penn State just does it much better. I'm going to take 24-3. Yes, Penn State wins. I think the second half will be a lot better than the first half as well. I think because of this, there will be this unconscious nervousness, if you will. Mike Yurcich isn't there, and you gotta adapt on the fly. You gotta be very quick with this. And then J1 Sider and Ty Howell, they're gonna have to take time to get used to things, figure out the dynamics. So the first half could be a little quiet, a little slow, a little sluggish, and then the second half, I think that's where Penn State breaks apart. Maybe the defense forces a couple of turnovers. Rutgers' offensive line isn't the best in the world. So, and one of the things that Penn State's great at is getting pressure on the quarterback. Even though Gavin Wimsatt is a dual threat, there's really not going to be much they can do there. So that's the game preview in a nutshell and my score prediction. Let me know yours in the comment. 24-3 is my final score for Penn State over Rutgers. A good test. This is a good test for Penn State to see, is J1 Sider potentially a legitimate offensive coordinator candidate? Can he out-interview whoever that splash hire is supposed to be? What about Ty Howell? I don't think we should discount him because they're co-offensive coordinators, co-play callers in this case.